Patch 1.1.1 is going to buff everything. We're especially going to focus on the Necromancer changes. And yes, heads up, the Barber Heart is not going to get nerfed. There's actually hard buffs and hard buffs to all the classes. I'm sorry for that. I'm German. I'm trying my best. I will include screenshots to all these slides in the description below for all the classes, but I will be talking in depth about the Necromancer because that's what I know the most about. First, Bone Spirit Enhanced. Bone Spirit cooldown reduction increased from 6 to 7 seconds. So if Bone Spirit crits, your cooldown gets reduced by 7 seconds now. That's nice, but not complete insanity. Talking about Wither though in the Paragon board, willpower requirement for bonuses reduced from 50 to 40. And that's actually huge because if we're looking at 200 willpower or 400 willpower in that case, now it is a 10 times increase. And before it was only an 8 times increase, especially now that the bonus damage per 40 willpower is 4% instead of 2.5%. Wither in total reads, your shadow damage over time effects have a 5% chance to deal 50% bonus damage each time they deal damage. This chance is increased by 1% and bonus damage is increased by 4% now for each 40 willpower you have. So that's another 10% on 400 willpower. And another 40% bonus damage. So 90 in total, 15% in total. That's quite nice now. Might actually be worth it to really look at what Wither does. And if we could be increasing the bonus damage of Corpse Explosion even more. Because that's what we're looking at. Infinity Mist Necromancer zooming around, making the Corpse Explosion, making pools of shadow, having the Shadow Blight procs go off, and now having your Blight and your pools of shadow do more damage than ever. Could forego the Reap on the Infinity Mist Necromancer to play Blight. Also, quite a lot of aspects are being changed. The Empowering Reaper, for example, used to be critical strike damaging enemies, with Sever has a 10 to 20% chance to spawn a pool of light under the target. That's now normal damage, which is quite interesting, but again, also useless because the Sever build is a high crit build. In the Eternal Realm, we already did 2 million damage at level 75. Now with the Barber Heart, you actually do 5, 10, 12, 13. I mean, at level 80, I did, I think, 14 million so far completely alone as a stacking damage. So the Sever pools of Blight are completely useless as your Sever's like your finisher. It's like your Bone Spear. You launch it, 1-2 hits, and then the elite opponent is completely gone. Might work against bosses, might work against Lilith, but also Lilith and bosses don't really stand still, so the Empowering Reaper is really not that good. Then more interesting is the aspect of the exposed flash used to be bone skills only. Now it says change to lucky hit, up to 10% chance to generate 30 to 50 essence when hitting a vulnerable enemy. Any ability you use, play for example Blood Surge that hits everyone with the Death Speaker's pendant, will instantly have a chance to refill your essence as you're hitting you can hit 40 targets at the same time as they're increasing Nightmare Dungeon minion density, and therefore have a chance to restore your essence streak. Continuous lucky hits to restore your essence. You play a Blight Necro with a Bone Prison, you'll just lucky hit all the time and consistently, you have infinite essence essentially. So every build gets super boosted by this. Every build has a chance to use this. Again, the Sever build doesn't need it. Infinity Mist Necromancer doesn't need it. Bone Spear had it before, but now all the shadow builds and the blood builds could hugely profit from this. I'm really excited to see the aspect of the exposed flash go over to anyone. We'll definitely experiment with the Blight build again. Also, don't forget that Army of the Dead has a 66% base lucky hit chance already. So it's very easy to actually hit the aspect of the exposed flash potential with that. I could get it up to 88% in my lucky hit build for the Army of the Dead. It's possible. And Bone Storm also, if you turn it to shadow damage, because that's important. A Shadow Necromancer turns the Bone Storm into shadow. But now it's also having still the chance to use exposed flash. I don't know where I'm supposed to get all the aspects in, but there's thoughts to make this work. No worries, there's a second slide with more changes, but also we'll talk about what happens to Nightmare Dungeons, and Temerity is getting buffed tremendously. But first, the second slide for the Necro. And that would be the aspect of the decay damage increase from 40% to 45%. Aspect of the decay is the Shadow Blight key passive stacking 1 for bonus damage on Shadow Blight key passive up to 5 times. So instead of 200%, we're talking about 225%, which is plenty good. 25% flat damage increase on something that already can scale up extremely nice. Thank you very much, making Shadow Necros even more viable. Followed up by the aspect of Torment, Essence regeneration increased from 20 to 30% to 90 to 170. Yes, you heard right. Aspect of Torment reads, critical strikes with bone skills increases your essence regeneration. Well, bone Necro was already insane. Now it's super duper crazy. Just hitting a critical strike and straight up 170% essence regeneration. I mean, that for Bone Spirit Necro as well. Yeah, that should be very interesting for Bone Spirit as well. Then they're working with the hulking aspect, which goes from a resource aspect to utility. And the hulking aspect is your golem aspect, which is completely useless. Chance for the golem to reduce its cooldown increase from 1 to 4% to 2 to 5. Chance the golem to spawn a corpse increase from 0.5 to 2% to 1 to 2. I don't know why the hulking aspect even exists. The percentages are so low. There's not even a remote consideration to ever clap into that. Now they're also changing away the intelligence affix from the Grease of the Empty Tomb for movement speed, and I highly have to disagree with that, because I was using the Grease of the Empty Tomb to also boost my damage, since I don't care about moving fast as a Necro. I know a lot of you like to zoom around and move fast. I like the reasonable pace the Necro has, and if I want movement speed, I'll use my Shadow Blood Mist to have no movement speed penalty and just zoom like a demon. But I don't need that on the Grease of the Empty Tomb. I mean, the bonus intelligence on that one gave me a flat damage increase to make higher crits. Now I get bonus movement. Bonus movement speed is not helping me to do more damage. I'm kind of sad about that one. And as you can see, the Crepify Heart not nerfed, Creeping Death, nothing, none. Like Necromancer unchanged, on top. Absolutely fantastic. Yes, everything that is now very feelingly super great is going to be even feeling better. Everything through the board just gets buffed. Now Temerity. You know, Temerity, the pants that can create Barrier if you overheal. All stats affixes replaced with max life. Barrier is now based on maximum life and not minimum life. So if you have 16,000 life and you get up to 80% Barrier on overheal, you can almost double your max life with Temerity. And overhealing with a Blood Necro is incredibly easy, especially with the chance to get so much Barrier on top. You can now think about playing bonus damage on having a Barrier. Incredibly good, the Temerity buff. I'm really looking forward to somehow incorporate that into my Blood Necromancer. Now they also talked about the Nightmare Dungeon fixed density buff. And as it seems from their screenshot, there's roughly going to be a 50% increase in mob density, and overall Helltide areas are also going to have more minions. So you're not running around a Helltide and you feel like there's nothing there. More elites, more mobs, more experience. Very interesting as well. Dungeon bosses, dungeon end bosses felt very lackluster, and they gave them an overall health boost. So you actually feel like having a fight, especially scaling up into the end game. I won't complain about that because right now with the Barber Heart, when every boss fight is 1-2 seconds. So I think for people that are looking for a challenge, this is nice. For people that are broken, that have a super good build, that have their top end equipment, it's still going to be easy. It's just going to be a more fun challenge for the people on the lower end. Interestingly enough though, due to changing the buff healths from level 35 on, not Nightmare Dungeon 35, from level 35 on, every dungeon boss is going to drop a guaranteed legendary. Always. From level 35 on, every dungeon you do, guaranteed legendary. And the Legion event as well can have a legendary sometimes, but from level 35 on, will always have a legendary. Intriguing changes to always give you good loot and never feel you punished for doing something. Plus, the Butcher obviously gives you legendary, he's a huge boss. And Treasure Goblins. They used to have a 50% chance to drop a legendary, which feels kind of bad because 50%, and then I meet a goblin and I could have, with 50%, 10 goblins could have no legendary. Yes, that's how math works. It doesn't mean that, you know, one legendary, no legendary, one legendary, low legendary. They changed that to 100%. From level 15 on, 15, you always get a legendary from them. Then they iterated again on respec cost, reduced by 40% still, elixir stacks 99 times, and the stash tab, all coming with patch 1.1.1, and that is for the 8th of August planned. Plus, annoying affixes get removed from nightmare dungeons. Resource drain, backstabber, gold enchanted. All of that gone. All in all, this Campfire chat reassures me that they are really trying to make the game better and not just worse, especially since they didn't do a single nerf. Everything is just going upwards and onwards. They're buffing the whole season. They're also buffing the Eternal Realm. And this level of communication is what I'm looking forward to, because now we can give feedback. We can say, okay, some of this stuff is still bad. Some of this stuff might need to be changed. Like, could you twiddle and tweak a value? 5% buff? Maybe it should be 10% buff. We can give valuable feedback right now to see if anything of this could be even more improved or even less improved, or should be completely changed because it makes no sense. Like the golem aspect buffs, if that aspect even exists remotely. I like it. This is a great patch. It's going to boost everyone. It's going to make the game more fun. It's going to make experience gain faster, and it's going to give you more loot as well, especially for the casual player. I mean, I don't care about my legends. I do Tree of Whispers. Like, I get so many legends during leveling. But if you just want to farm dungeons, you will now 10 dungeons, 10 legendaries. Perfect. Level 35 plus, you get this. Until level 35, you do strongholds, you do Tree of Whispers, you do Legion events, and then you get guaranteed legendaries from that on for the next 15 levels until you're level 50. You're in World Tier 3. You're completely legendaried out already. Banger. If you want to know more about now how to level in Nightmare Dungeons with patch 1.1.1, 1.1.0 with Season 1, or you're more looking forward to the Infinimus Super Blaster, 2 good videos to watch.